Thank you for joining us today, and this is be part number 6 of our teaching that we've been doing on the coming of the Mashyach, or the Messiah, and the rapture of the believers, or the catching up of the believers. And I'm going to read today from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, and I'm going to be start reading at verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming upon the earth. For the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin, now I want you to notice something right here. Notice that he says, when you see these things begin to come to pass, not after they've all come to pass, but as you see them begin to come to pass. The Messiah speaking here, by the way. He says, then look up, your redemption is drawing near. Let me say this too, when you're looking up, if he says look up, your redemption is drawing near, there's no sense in looking up unless it's that close. So he's saying that when you see these things begin to come to pass. Now what is he talking about here? Back at verse 25, he talks about there'll be signs in the sun and in the moon. Now, for those of you who are not aware, that coming up in April of this year on Passover, that there's going to be what is referred to as one of the first of the 4 blood moons that are going to be coming in vision and on Passover, April 15th of this year. There'll be a total eclipse of the moon, which means it's going to turn into looking like it's red, and that's what it's talking about here. There's going to be actually 4 blood moons starting in April of 2014, and it's going to land on the feast of Passover. There'll be another one in the month of October at the feast of Sukkot, and that will be in October of this year. There's going to be a total eclipse of the sun. I believe it's in March of 2015. In between the 4 blood moons that are about to show up, there's going to be a blood moon showing up in 2015 on the Feast of Passover. And then there'll be another one in the fall on the Feast of Sukkot again. Now, there's a whole lot of videos and information about the 4 blood moons and how significant they are in regard to Israel. And so what's going to happen during that time frame, we don't know. But it's definitely a sign or a signal that something is about to happen. And this is one of the signs that the Mashyach, or the Messiah, said that we are to look for. And that he said that when we begin to see these things begin to come to pass, to look up, for our redemption was drawing near. Now, in our last teaching on part number 5, if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to that. And we may get into some more of that in 1 Corinthians. We dealt with, in chapter 15, about the Apostle Paul, or Shoal, talking about the resurrection of the body. And how he stated that, he said, I'm going to show you a mystery. We shall not all die, or we shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. We shall be changed. He's talking about the resurrection of the body. He's talking about what the Mashyach, or the Messiah, is talking about. Look up, your redemption, or your resurrection is drawing near. And that's when we'll be caught up together with those that have died and gone before us to meet Yahusha in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Mashyach. So, we're getting close to that time frame, I really believe. I believe that, and we won't go into detail why I believe this, but I do believe that it'll be that the rapture, or the catching up of the believers, is going to be during the feast of Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, Paul made reference in 1 Corinthians 15 that at the last trumpet, or the last shofar, the last sound, the last blow of the shofar, we shall all be changed. I mean, that we shall all be changed in that moment. And I really believe that you connect the dots here. You're connecting the fact that he's talking about the rapture of the believers before the tribulation period begins, which is referred to as the day of Yahuwah. It's a day of wrath. It's a day that's coming upon the earth. It's a day that Yahushua said would catch those that weren't watching. It would catch them off guard. It would catch them as a thief in the night. He also referred to it as a woman going in labor pains. It would be something like that. So we're on the very edge of that happening in our day. And so that's why we need to be sober. We need to be looking for his return, because it's very close. We'll pick back up here in our next session, and I hope that you've been blessed, and I have, and I thank you for your time today. Shalom.